at Nifty, that is sitting with a gain of almost 40 points, and the Bank Nifty, which at the start of the show was in the red territory, has now moved into the green, sitting with a gain of just around 40 points. So maybe a tad bit of buying on dips is what we are seeing as far as the Indian market is concerned. But the other trend that we have been following very closely is what is happening in the world of commodities, especially crude, because it has been a very volatile last 2-3 days as far as that commodity is concerned. Here is an interesting trend when crude oil prices rally 8% or more within a week. Prashant has done all that number crunching and has found that interesting trend for us. So over to you, Prashant.
As they say, history does not repeat, but it does rhyme. And taking off from that saying, what we've basically done is looked at the last 10 years and essentially looked at all the times when oil has jumped more than 8% in under 5 days. And then we've looked at what happens in each of these instances over the next 1 month. So if, for example, from the 1st to the 5th of January, oil rises 8%, we look at what happens from the 5th of Jan to the 5th of Feb, the 1 month after. Do prices continue to rise or do prices fade? I mean, the reason for this is simple. Once the commodity, anything enters into some sort of momentum, the general understanding is probably there are people who kind of latch on to it and it keeps going. But is that true? That's what we're trying to see here. So very quickly, this is the weekly 8% move, and over the next successive graphics, that is the second graphic there is the next move. And there are 21 instances I found over the last 10 years where there has been over an 8% move in under 5 days. But I'm only highlighting one from every year. And of course, a bunch more in 2009 for reasons I'll tell you. This is, if you can go back to the first graphic quickly, I think we are looking at, this is the one. This is 2019. Oil moved 8% in the week ended 4th Jan. It moved another 9% over the next 1 month or so. Let's move on to 2018. I think a similar kind of picture, 16% gains. Basically, once oil moved 8%, it put on another 8%. 2017, I think, will come up next. 9% move followed by a minus 1% move. So it didn't really go anywhere after that. It actually gave up some. I think 2016 also we had an 8% move. But it more than retraced everything after the next 1 month. As I said, I'm not putting all instances. I'll summarize this later, but I just want to give you a flavor. 2015, 9% move here, fully retraced after that in the next 1 month. And then I think you have to go back, you have to skip a couple of years and go back to 2011. There were no instances between 15 and 11 of this 8% move in under 5 days. 8% minus 2%, so there was some retracement. And I think then you go back to 2009 where there were a bunch of such moves. Actually, this was when prices continued to rally. A strong momentum year for commodities and actually other commodity assets as well. It was a pretty volatile and in some cases one-way year after the kind of crash that we saw during the GFC. So let's just summarize this, put all of this together. Out of 21 instances of over 8% move, how many are positive and how many are negative? Basically, how many were positive follow-throughs and how many were negative follow-throughs? So this will tell you that 8 times, 8 out of 21, oil moved negative after the initial move. In 13 instances, it was positive. Let's break up the positive numbers further. Out of the 13, there were 3 instances where oil moved nearly 10%, basically 8 or 9%. After the initial 8% move. Out of 13, 3. But there were, I think, about 4 instances out of these 13 when oil actually moved up more than 10%. And of course, the average positive return is 3%. So if you take 21 instances and take an average for all of the returns, the average comes to positive 3. What can you take away from this? Basically, if you just look at the probability of things, and how they've panned out in the past and apply them in the future, chances are that oil stays where it is or probably even moves up a little bit from here. But that's just the 1 month that we looked at. So you have to keep that in mind when looking at this. Back to you, Anisha.
Okay, so very interesting analysis there. Thank you, Prashant, for joining us with all of that. You know what, we need to keep an eye out on the markets as well, because there is some momentum building up on the upside. The Bank Nifty is now sitting with a gain of around 100 points. Axis Bank has moved higher in the last couple of minutes, and even if you look at ICICI Bank, that one is trending higher. Remember, when we started off the show, Nifty Bank was sitting in the red territory. So the last 15-20 minutes, we have seen this big up move happening, and we'll keep tracking that particular trend. But the other story that we have been tracking is with respect to Air India. Do you remember that a ministerial panel was supposed to hold a meeting today with respect to Air India divestment, and the government was expected to invite expression of interest for Air India this month itself. Anu Sharma, who has been following all of these stories very closely, is joining us with the update. Anu, good afternoon. Over to you.
Good afternoon. So the ministerial panel is holding that meeting on Air India divestment right now as we speak. The meeting has been going on for over an hour now, and it is expected that the ministers will come out anytime now and will probably give us an update on what happened. Agenda for that meeting was to approve the expression of interest, which the government is expected to invite this very month. Remember, the panel, the inter-ministerial panel, which is called Air India Specific Alternative Mechanism, consists of Home Minister Amit Shah, Railway Minister Piyush Goyal, Aviation Minister Hardeep Singh Puri, Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman. So there are 4 ministers in this panel, and the panel is expected to finish its meeting anytime now. Remember, the government is planning to sell its entire stake in the second round of Air India divestment. The first round, of course, saw government offering 74% stake, but there were no bidders. This time around, the government expects that some parties will show interest, as it has said that several entities have come forward and shown an unofficial interest in buying Air India. So we are just getting some updates from the meeting, and we'll keep you posted. Back to you.
Okay, thanks very much, Anu, for that. By the way, just pointing out that, as Anisha was also saying, there is a bit of a pickup, so it's not lasting. I mean, the sell-off, which was sharp and severe, is not lasting. It's bouncing. 60 points now on the Nifty. So already 40 points off the low, more than 40 points probably off the low. And the Bank Nifty is also, after, I think, dipping into the red, it's up 150 points. So this is a sharp and furious move, which is underway as we speak. 31,382 is where the Nifty Bank is at as well. If you can quickly look at what US futures are doing, and let's just look at what European markets are doing. I think that should be helpful as well, because things had come off. I think the US futures had come off, but they're back. I think they're already bouncing. And European markets are up. I mean, 0.5%, 0.25%, 0.8%. So the 3 big markets are on your screen, and there is green across the board as well. Okay, we will take a quick break here, but before we do that, here's something that you, our viewers, must take note of. CNBC-TV18 and the National Stock Exchange have come together to promote investor awareness through a special campaign, Informed Investor, that empowers you to make the right decisions with your money. Quite often, hard-earned money gets lost by uninformed investors because they dabble in penny stocks. So what are penny stocks? These are stocks which are less researched, with little credible research on their fundamentals. Moreover, these can be manipulated by unscrupulous operators. So unless you have convincing reasons, you are better off investing in well-researched large cap, mid cap or small cap stocks. Don't get lured by the performance of some of these stocks without understanding their history. Never trust random, unverified sources that urge you to buy a penny stock.
देखो देखो